Well, it looks like we're on the right track. That's the old Jerome Highway right there. So we're going to head on down this road. Welcome everybody back to the DLG. My name is Skip. We're back up towards Jerome. And we're trying to locate this old Spanish flu cemetery. One of my friends here on Facebook told me about this old cemetery. And we're on our way up to try and find it. So we made it in the old Spanish flu cemetery. This dates back, but in 1918, Jerome had about 9,000 people in it, and it was a real boom time for them because that was during the time of World War I, and they were supplying a lot of copper for the war effort back then. And there was a tremendous amount of prosperity back in those days. But something happened that year. There was a flu, and they called it the Spanish flu. It really turned into a real epidemic, to the point to where they actually stopped all social events. No dances. You couldn't go get a soda or an ice cream. All the drinking fountains were shut off, and it affected a lot of the area of Clarkdale, the Verde Valley, the little town of Jerome. It claimed about 130, 140 lives. 1909, 1924. Very young person. And this is a child's grave right here. Born and died January 10th, 1923. Very interesting place. These old cemeteries, you never really know whether or not you're going to be walking on a grave. Here's one just kind of left in the bushes. There was a very large population of immigrants back in those days. In a lot of cases, during the Spanish flu epidemic, they blamed the people from foreign countries for spreading the disease. And that's why they called it the Spanish flu. So what they discovered is that it wasn't the Spanish who were spreading the flu. It was the shopkeepers. Because the shopkeepers would like to keep a tidy shop. They were sweeping outside and inside their stores. Another child right there. And it was the dust that was being kicked up that was spreading the flu virus. 1880 to 1926. And here again, Mom. Here again, this ground is so rocky that they literally would sometimes just lay the bodies in the shallowest of grave and then pile rocks up around it because you just simply couldn't dig very deep because of these rocks. (1927) 1925, 1928. Now, Jerome is directly up the hill from here, But I believe technically this would be called Clarkdale. I don't think that this is part of Jerome. This one's all in Spanish too. 1919. That one there is from 1918. 1883 to 1918. People just did not live that long back in those days. And then suddenly you just realize this is a child's grave. There are a lot of children buried here. And here we have one very, very well cared for. And this child, obviously an infant, lived for about a month. A lot of infant mortality back in those days. Trying to be respectful, but it's almost impossible not to step on. They're just buried everywhere around here. This is unbelievable. That's 1922. No markings on this one. So a lot of these are unmarked. And if you look right here, you'll see that the placard has been removed. And that's because a lot of times they made those out of copper, because this was a copper mining community. And grave robbers would come along and take them because they could salvage them, make a little bit of money on copper. Here's another example of how they would bury people, just due to the fact that you can see how close a lot of these graves are. And so it would be very, very difficult, without disturbing a lot of this, to get any kind of equipment in here. So a lot of these graves had to be dug by hand. So they would encase the bodies or the grave site in the concrete. And that would keep animals from digging them up. This is really weird. A lot of the letters on this are backwards. Can you guys see that? Interesting. So there's one 1932, Gonzalez. Another one where the placard was ripped off. And these are just right up against the road. 1930. There's one from 1934.